Well, hello and welcome to this session on the language of the gospel. I am Carrie Lindquist, the author of Foundations Phonics and the Let's Talk Science series. And I'm joined today by my mom, Kristen Pratt, the author of the Language Lessons series. So we're just going to jump right in and we're going to start by talking about communication in our earliest levels. And so that begins with Stepping Stones. Stepping Stones is going to be the preschool program, and this is a developmental approach to preschool, which is so important for all students. It's going to cover colors, letters, nutrition, matching objects, weather, and also nourishing their faith in God. So we're talking about how Bible characters honored God. There's also memory verses in this, which is so important for building vocabulary, memory skills, which are going to come into play later on when the student is learning how to read. And it's also full of hands-on activities. So this is a course that I'm really looking forward to when my youngest reaches this age. Stepping Stones came out after my older kids had already gone through kindergarten. And so I'm really looking forward to being able to use that course. Is there anything that you have to add for Stepping Stones, Kristen?
I just think that it's a lot of fun. I showed the cover of it just because it's so cute.
It is. It's adorable.
And I'll just randomly open up a page here. The pages are nice and bright and colorful. The images are large, and I love this because it has the congratulations after different sections, which it just motivates the students so much.
Yes.
And it's just a lot of fun.
Yes.
And definitely appropriate for the preschool level, and being developmentally appropriate is so important.
It is. So the course that comes after that, building on these skills, would be Simply K. This is another developmental approach to kindergarten. So continuing to build up those developmental skills that the student needs in order for success in the later grades. So this one is going to also be focusing on letters, life skills, rhyming, Bible, emotions, or language of communicating emotions. The rhyming portion is also so important for building the literacy skills that students will need later on, especially for students who you may suspect have dyslexia or you're getting ready for reading. Those rhyming skills are so important. This also places an emphasis on the Bible portion. And so the student is going to be learning the Bible stories as they're going along through those lessons. Anything that you have to add on that, Kristen?
I love the way that it lays the foundation for reading, and it sets the students up through developmental activities,
right,
to lay the foundation for future learning.
Exactly. All right. So our next course in the lineup is Foundations Phonics. Now, this course is designed to be very flexible because students at this age are very unique. We find them all over the board on their readiness to read. And so if your student is ready to learn to read at about the kindergarten mark, they're showing signs of they know their letters, they know the sounds, they have an interest in reading, they have the memory skills for it, then you can actually begin Foundations Phonics in kindergarten. You can also combine it with Simply K. Once you've reached lesson 23 in Simply K, then you can combine in Foundations Phonics and work through them together. At the first grade level, this would be done in half a year. So there's a schedule in that for the half a year, and then you would combine that with language lessons forward from there. Now, Foundations Phonics is not just phonics. So one of the primary components of this course is that as the student is being taught how to read, they're also being walked through the gospel. And so they're learning the gospel message from creation through to the resurrection of Christ. And they're establishing that important foundation of, why did Jesus come? Why does it matter to me? What happened? Why is the world broken? Why do we see suffering? And so they're building up that foundation so that by the time they've completed Foundations Phonics, they have a really strong understanding of the gospel and how it matters to them individually and personally. And so that is establishing the gospel message. And then from there, the language lesson series continues developing the students' understanding of, why do we have communication? Why did God give us language? And so once they've completed Foundations Phonics, they would move into language lessons. And I'm going to let Kristen discuss language lessons in just a second. First, I did want to make mention at this stage, there can be a lot of messaging that maybe as mom, you've brought your kids this far to preschool or kindergarten age, and now it's time to hand it off to someone else who knows more than you or knows better. Maybe you don't have the skills for this. That tends to be a lot of what we can hear as moms. And I just want to encourage you at this stage that God has called and He has equipped you for this task. You are capable and you've brought your kids this far. You have what it takes to continue the process. A lot of kindergarten, a lot of preschool, a lot of first grade is just continuing on those skills that we've already developed in our kids. I also want to make a special encouragement if you are looking at homeschooling, or maybe you've homeschooled for a while, but now this is a year that your student maybe has some learning differences or you're working with some special needs. And then that messaging can be very much amplified for us as moms that we brought our kids this far, but now it's time to, maybe we're not equipped now because of differences or special needs. And I want to give special encouragement to you that our children are fearfully and wonderfully made, that they have been made in the image of God. He has called and equipped us to steward them. All students have differences. All students have struggles and strengths, and we are stewarding those struggles and strengths and helping them grow into the man or woman that God has called them to be. And so I just wanted to leave you with that as we end this session in the preschool area and moving on to the language lesson series, which is one of my kids' favorites. So Kristen, why don't you tell us about the language lesson series?
Well, Carrie, thank you so much for that reminder about not only the gospel and how important that is as the foundation of communication, but also that encouragement to all of us who have children in our life that have some special needs, because God has gifted us with the ability, and He will give us the wisdom to bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. And there's no reason why we can't homeschool them as well.
Right. And this is a process we're walking through in communication, where my youngest has a severe expressive language disorder. And so we're walking through the diagnosis of that, and his communication is severely limited. And in this process, I'm beginning to learn and see how fascinating God designed communication, that language is truly a gift. And all of the processes that need to come together and work for us to be able to speak and hear and put together, it's incredibly fascinating. And so I'm excited to get into language lessons and how you've put together that course and how we glorify God through our communication. Why is it important to learn how to write properly, to write so others can understand us, to be able to put together sentences and paragraphs? So.
Absolutely. And just as a little side note, one of the things that has also come out of our experience with your little guy is how communication is so much more than just words. Because even with his inability to use words, he still is able to communicate.
Yes, he is very animated in facial expressions and sign language and his communication devices. So
yes, and that actually, go ahead.
God designed the human brain so fascinating, and where there's difficulty, there's other strengths that compensate for that difficulty. And it's exciting to walk through the process and see what God is teaching us, how He's going to use that, and who He's developing. Even children who have difficulties, He has purpose in that. It's not purposeless.
Absolutely. And it ties in really well with my goals with the language lesson series. And that is to bring in many different forms of communication. So part of communication is the use of words and all those technical things when it comes to writing and expressing yourself through writing, but it's also part of listening. It's part of speaking, and then it's even art forms, because we express ourselves through art. We'll jump forward to some of the other levels, but I also include things that we don't necessarily always think of as art. But there are other ways of art other than just like a painting. And so we express ourselves and we communicate something through a lot of different ways. And so we brought in many different ways to communicate into the language lessons series, which I think also makes it fun.
Yeah, it does. And one of the ways that that's also very important for a student. This year, one of my children was also diagnosed with dyslexia. So we found out he is very, very dyslexic. And one of the reasons language lessons work so well for him is also that art component, because he tends to process things very different, very visually and through art. And so it helps him communicate and process through a way that he's actually gifted in. And we can work on the areas that may be weaknesses as well. And so by combining so much, we help our students experience success and excel in areas, and also give them the courage and the strength to maybe persevere through those areas that are a little more of a struggle.
Right. I love that outlook and that approach. Okay, well, let's dive into some of the nitty gritties. And so first off, we're going to jump into the language lessons series. And so Carrie mentioned language lessons 1. Language lessons 1 utilizes real books because it's best for students who are learning to read to engage with real books that are fun, that have topics that really speak to them and that they're interested in. And it also encourages them because they can open up a book from a bookshelf and actually recognize the words and be able to read them. Even if we have to read part of the book with them, that's okay. They're still interacting and can be proud of their accomplishments. And so language lessons 1 starts where Foundations Phonics leaves off, and it further enhances the ability to read. It reviews some of the letter sounds, but then it goes into blends and all sorts of concepts that are a continuation of what they've learned in Foundations Phonics. There's also an academy course for language lessons level 1 that's really fun. It's dynamic. There's a couple of songs that were performed by my son-in-law, and it includes a lot of extra practice. And there's a PDF in there of the 3 reading books, and it really just helps with extra practice. It engages the students. There are all the words so that they can practice reading them quicker, the sight words. I highly recommend it as an addition. It's not required, but it's definitely recommended to engage students and to just give them that little extra oomph when they're doing the course. And I think that they're going to really enjoy it as well.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, we're going to move on to level 2. Level 2 actually has all of the reading in it. There's passages of reading. The first day always starts off with a special feature. Sometimes it's going to be that art study. Sometimes it's going to be a poem. It's all sorts of ways that we communicate. As we mentioned before, there's so many different ways to communicate. And so that beginning special feature page really helps to connect students to have ideas and to really think about ways that they can communicate. One of the features is that reading section, and there's highlighted sentences that if your student is really just beginning to get the hang of reading, they can just read those sentences, and the parent or a sibling or somebody else that's helping can read the rest of it with them. And so that just adds a really special dynamic. I remember when you were young, Carrie, and us sitting side by side reading together. And even though reading, was a little bit hard for you, you just blossomed during those times that we were reading together. And those are some of my favorite memories. And I just want to encourage parents to just enjoy those moments, because not only are you going to remember those times forever, so is your student. You're going to look back on those days and, you're just going to sigh and enjoy those moments of remembering.
Yes, those are some of my favorite memories. And there's nothing like seeing your student at this age, because the world is opening up to them. And as those connections are being made and you see that light in their eyes and the excitement for learning, it's just such a special experience to get to be a part of that. And I do love that you design language lessons to meet the student where they're at. So if a student is more advanced and they're reading independently at this stage, great. If seeing that whole page of reading for them to do is more intimidating, then we've broken it down so that the student doesn't have to feel like they're less than because they're not doing the whole thing. It's designed right to meet them right where they're at.
Exactly. We, as you said earlier, our students are fearfully and wonderfully made, and we want to meet them where they are and not try to force them into a spot and discourage them because they're not there.
Right.
And so I really designed the language lesson series to be so flexible and so easy to target the specific needs of your student. And I always encourage families to adjust. I adjusted using the series with my own students. I changed it up, and I changed it up differently for each of my students.
Yes.
So I'm just going to give a quick peek inside. Again, just opening it up randomly to random pages here. The words at the text at this size is still fairly large. There's colorful pictures throughout. There's opportunities for the students to express their own thoughts. And you can even at this age write down, do some of the writing for the student if needed, depending on the abilities of the student. So I just wanted to give a quick peek at level 2. Levels 3, 4, and 5, I just want to show, we're going to move along real quick here. These levels utilize, here I'm adding a book. They utilize a reader. I should have had this out ready, but they use this 101 favorite stories of the Bible on day 4. And you only need to buy this book once, but they're going to do their day 4 activities. They're going to read from the book, from this. And again, you can read this to your student and pick out sentences or words for them to read. Mm-hmm. But some students are going to be ready just to read it for themselves. And then they're going to do some copy work, which strengthens memory, which is so important in the reading process.
Absolutely.
The brain has to, a well-working memory is imperative for students to learn how to read. And so copy work is wonderful. Carrie, you remember helping even your brother, and he would do one word at a time. And so, you remember that was something that was important that he needed to learn, was to group those words and be able to remember them, to write them.
Yes, and having that memory and building up those skills is incredibly important. And here I did want to mention as well, on the Masterbooks Academy, we do have the Wows of Brain courses, and those are fantastic at this stage and earlier, even a little bit later, for building up the language memory to automaticity. And that is where the student can instantly recall the sounds, the letters, all the information that they need. And my student has done incredibly well with those courses. I highly, highly recommend those as well for building up the brain strength, the memory skills. Those are awesome courses. I encourage you to check those out as well.
Absolutely. And I really encourage families not to cut out the copy work assignments. I know that it really can tax the student's brain. Let them take a break after copy work. And have them do copy work when they're fresh. So if you need to say, okay, we're not going to do copy work yet, we're going to do it later, and save it for a time when their brain is refreshed and ready to go, and then have them do it. It also teaches them better writing skills as well. Copy work is just something that has so many benefits for learning. It's really important not to let that go by the wayside. That's one of the areas that I don't recommend that you change. You may help them, and you may, give them some help with it if needed, or schedule it at a time that's different from the rest of their work. But I wouldn't just get rid of it altogether. And then they're going to also answer some comprehension questions about what they read on that day 4 using this book. A lot of families will ask, can I use my own book? You can, but it does go along, that day does specifically go along with this book, and the copy work and the scripture and all of that is going to come from this book. So you'll get a lot more out of this out of all 3 levels by utilizing this specific book.
Yes. And that's definitely a book too, with both of my students who have reached that level where their reading skills have really, really blossomed using that book each week. The focus, the comprehension, the memory work, it all ties together, and their reading skills have grown by leaps and bounds in that book as well.
Absolutely. And I also wanted to mention that we also have God's Story, and we have some free worksheet downloads that if you'd rather use the God Story book, we've given you that option as well. And so you would have to print those sheets off, but you can replace day 4 if you have a student that is just can't get enough of reading and writing and all those things. And I was like that. I would have loved having an additional book that I could do day 4 in as well. You can download those worksheets, print them off, and you can use them along with the God Story book as well. And so we've provided that as an option. Again, we just like to make things really, really flexible with Master Books. I'm going to grab level 6 because that uses this book here. It uses the 10-minute Bible journey. And so this whole book is used within level 6. And level 6 is kind of an important transitionary time. It's that transition between the younger elementary and into the middle school ages of 7 and 8. And so this really lays a solid foundation, kind of wraps up some of those reading skills, spelling skills. It just provides that important foundation before they go into middle school. And I just wanted to reflect back to Carrie on what we talked about with always integrating the gospel message and reminding students that it's important not only for them to understand the gospel and all things about our Christian life and Christian living, but also to learn how to communicate those things. And so when they are using books such as the 10-minute Bible journey, the 101 and God's Story, they're learning so much about the Word of God. And then they're also learning how to effectively communicate what they've read. Right. And so it just adds such an important dimension that isn't always included in a lot of communication or writing or language arts courses today.
Right. And I think that's important because so often with language, I remember as a student thinking this doesn't matter. I don't plan to be, a journalist or anything like that. But right. Having that knowledge that, no, I need to know how to communicate now because I will need to communicate for God later. It adds the relevancy to the knowledge that they're learning.
Right. It's application.
Yes.
Okay. So, level 7, which really hasn't been out for all that long. So this is kind of an exciting one. There's a bit of a transition here in level 7 from the previous levels. You'll see the difference. It's targeted more for older students. And I had a co-writer for this level. So Rachel Smith helped me write half of this book. And so I'm so grateful for her contributions. She did a wonderful job, and we have had so much wonderful feedback. Families just love the way that this transitioned for the older students. And I've heard nothing but rave reviews about it. Now, levels 7 and 8 use the God Story. And so you're going to, again, buy this once if you already have it because you did those worksheets and for the earlier levels, then you'll already have it. No need to rebuy it. One of the things that I absolutely love about this book, first of all, it's beautiful.
It is gorgeous.
You can see my little sticky notes from the work that I was doing in it. But here's an example of one of the, beautiful images. But the the lower levels use this. This is a condensed version or a summary of the passages that they're studying. And this part, the reading part, is a longer version of it. And so there's each spread, sometimes it's a single page, but a lot of times it's a spread. Each spread is based on passages of scripture. And so you have the longer summary here, and then you have the shorter summary here. And one thing that they're going to be working on is their summary skills. Now, if you have those free downloadable worksheets, you're going to focus just on this passage here for the younger students. But in level 7 and 8, they're actually going to focus on the longer part, but this serves as an example of how to summarize. And so it really helps their skills to be able to see how it's done, but then come up with their own. So they've got the example, and then they're going to do the summary. You can also use your own Bible. You can just follow along with the scriptures that are covered. You can use another Bible storybook, but both level 7 and 8 were specifically designed to use this book. And I highly recommend that you use this book. And the wonderful thing about all the books that are used with the series is that they go back on your bookshelf and you can pull them out time and again as the years go by. And so they have that enduring quality. And this one in particular is a coffee table book. Like, you can just leave it out and let your guests thumb through it, because it's just so beautiful. And again, these are just random pages that I'm opening them to, and you can see how beautiful they are. And she also weaves the thread of hope. So she ties the whole Bible together in this book. Now, that part of it isn't used in the language lessons, but it's definitely a bonus for this book if you're using it outside of language lessons. It also makes a great gift book. So, okay, enough of that. Language Lessons 8 is on its way. So it should be coming out shortly. And so you'll be able to, I believe, depending on when I'm not as aware of what's happening behind the scenes now. So, and I'm trying to think, we've had a lot going on in life. I do believe that the PDF is available and the book should be available shortly. If it's not already, I'm not even sure. I usually get copies. I haven't gotten any copies yet. So that's my key, that it's not in yet, but it should be shortly. And I'm really excited, but I haven't heard any estimated dates on that. But keep your eye out. If it's out already, my apologies. So it's going to be level 8 is set up very similar to level 7. It's just going to go a little deeper into the topics. And then level 9 takes another transition. I have to grab the book that level 9 uses this wonderful Pilgrim's Progress, the Journey Journal. And so this is it was taken from the all-in-one curriculum, but we've reformatted it. I just want to set this book down because it's kind of heavy. We reformatted it. It has the text and the wonderful images that are in the all-in-one format, but you didn't need all the extra stuff in it. And so we wanted to not only create a more affordable option, but one that works specifically with language lessons. And so one of the things that you're not going to find in other versions of Pilgrim's Progress is it has these worldview little outbreaks, little lessons on worldview, which I absolutely love. There's just nothing like it. They're fantastic. And this version also gives lots of room in the margins, and even at the end of some of the chapters, to take notes. So the student can really make this their own. Now, these summaries and notes, they're not required for language lessons, but they are a wonderful way to really engage the student into the story and make this book their own. In addition, you can give it as a gift. And so this book will have multiple purposes. It's not just for language lessons, but really it's for anyone that wants to read Pilgrim's Progress, take notes, because it's so rich, it's so wonderful, and they can even color in the images. So some kids, like my grandson, when he gets to this level, he's probably going to want to turn it into a bit of an art project on top of it. So that's just a little bit about this book that goes along with the language lessons. Absolutely love it. Highly recommend it. But that makes level 9 very unique. And this, by the way, is one of my sons. And so this cover is particularly special to me. He gets a little bit embarrassed about it, but it's kind of fun. So anyway, it continues on in kind of the same style of 7 and 8. But it ramps it up, of course, quite a bit. They're going to be covering literary analysis and worldview in this level using the Pilgrim's Progress. And the Pilgrim's Progress is throughout the course. So you really need to have the Pilgrim's Progress to use level 9. But I really think families are going to love this. We've already started to get back again rave reviews. Very, very popular with families right now. And so it makes us super excited. And I have a different co-writer. Not sure if I mentioned that. So my longtime friend, Sarah Gable, she actually worked with us back in the day, way back when we owned our own business, Pennywise Learning, that we sold to Christian book distributors. She worked with us, and my husband, Randy, actually set her and her husband up. They're younger than us and went to private school. And I was pregnant with Carrie then. That's how far back we go with them. But she's a wonderful writer, and she did an amazing job as well. And so I'm just so blessed to have my 2 co-writers that helped make these levels possible, which leads me to the strange way that we've released these books. So we released 7 and 9 first because I was co-writing with both of them at the same time. And so it actually allowed us to complete the series a little faster than what we could have otherwise. And so then 8 and 10 will be coming out around the same time. So our level 10 will be released soon. I think that's gone to the printer and we'll have a PDF. I'm kind of wondering if I've gotten level 8 confused. Level 8 might be just going to the designer right now. Not sure on that. So don't take anything else. I've had a lot going on in life. It's been a year. So yeah, go into the app, go into the Moms and Master Books and ask where's language lessons at. So I did get notice today. I do know that Language Lessons 10 has gone to the printer. It's available as a PDF. And then I'm not sure, it's usually anywhere from 4 to 6, sometimes 8 weeks before the print version is available. So I know you're going to be able to get your hands on level 10. Level 8 is being worked on, so it should come out. I'm not sure. I don't want to give timetables, but hopefully it's available by the new school year. Awesome. Level 11 is levels 11 and 12, and really most of level 10 as well, are being written by my co-writer, Sarah Gable. I am still part of the process. I am still doing a little bit of the work with it, and we communicate a lot. And so I'm guiding the whole process, but she is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful author. And so she's putting together the series totally based on my vision and getting a lot of feedback from me. And she's doing a fantastic job. And I cannot wait for 11 and 12 to come out. They should be out by the end of the year.
Awesome.
So we're going to transition a little bit from language lessons, and we're going to talk a little bit about the masterbooks method, not too deeply, but one of the hallmarks of the masterbooks method is that, like Carrie mentioned, we're fearfully and wonderfully made, and there are no one size fits all. And so we do often offer multiple solutions for the same subject and same grades. And so I'm going to transition real quick, and I'm going to talk about 2 other series that we have available that are in the realm of communication. Now, they're not as robust as the language lesson series. And so they really target specific areas or specific ways of doing it. They're not going to cover the vocabulary, the spelling, the reading, the literary analysis. They're not going to have all those wonderful special features, but they do serve a really important place in our market and for our families. And so the first one that I'm going to talk about is Writing Strands. Now, Writing Strands has a teaching companion. I highly recommend it. When I've used Writing Strands, I give my student a copy of the teaching companion, because you wouldn't want to start these any younger than, say, 5th or 6th grade. And they're old enough that they can read what they need to know from the teaching companion. One of the things that the teaching companion does is it gives instructions that they can look up. Now, I just randomly opened this to the citing sources page. Now, the citing sources page allows students who can't quite remember how to cite something, they can just open this up and have it available to them. It starts off with beginnings 1 and 2. I actually don't have beginnings 1 because I've used it with my own students. So Writing Strands focuses on a lot of creative writing, and it walks the student step by step through the process. It's a very targeted type of program, and it doesn't have a separate grammar, separate spelling. It expects parents to simply correct those things as they go along, discuss with the students how to correct their writing, and move on. And that's where, again, that teaching companion comes in. You can send them to the teaching companion to look up the different uses, say, of certain types of verbs. They can look it up in that teaching companion and know how to do it correctly in the future. And so this has beginnings 1 and 2, intermediate 1 and 2, and advanced 1 and 2. And there is a placement guide for the language lesson series and for the Writing Strands series. The Writing Strands series actually has a test that you can use. But if you understand, if you look through the test and you kind of know where your student is, if you're very familiar with their abilities and their struggles, then you should be able to place your student. And if you're just not sure, have them go ahead and take that test. So that's on the Masterbooks website. And then the other series that we have the Jensen series. I think Dad or Randy likens these to, this is like, I think, do you say, is this a professor that wrote it? I don't know. He's got these all, he's got characters assigned.
He would.
Yeah, each of these series, I wish I could remember them. It's kind of funny. So this book focuses solely on punctuation. This one solely on grammar, and this one solely on vocabulary. And then there's one more, which is format writing. And again, I don't have that one because I've used it with my students. So the format writing I will switch over to the language lesson series once they come out. But because I didn't have language lessons, what I did is I took half of format writing and did it in 11th grade and the other half in 12th grade. I added in a literature component, and I added in anything else that was really necessary for that particular student. So I might add in grammar, might add in vocabulary. It really just depends on the needs of the student. And so that's how I've used this. The Jensen series, you could do a little bit of each book every year so that they finish all of them by the end of their high school. You could focus on one book at a time. The vocabulary really could be used for a year and a half if you broke it down and had them follow the schedule. So I do think we offer alternate schedules for this one. So those are at a high school level that you would utilize the Jensen series. And again, it really just depends on the needs of your student, what they want to accomplish in life, what their interests are, what they need a little bit of extra help with. We're often asked about using writing strands in addition to language lessons. It's not necessary, but you can do it if that's something that your student would either benefit from or just can't get enough writing. I did leave something out that I wanted to mention. In the back of the language lessons, there's also a lot of extra practice and a lot of extra helps. So be sure not to miss those, because those are really important to the program and the way that the program's designed. And I can't tell you how often I've heard parents say, "Oh, I got to the end of the book and realized that all that amazing stuff was back there. I wish I had realized that." So make sure that you explore all that with your student before ever beginning the course.
Yes. And there's also so much great content in the beginning of all of the books. I know there's extra information for teaching, for a guide through how the book is put together, how it works. So definitely take a look at that before you start your school year, so you're not missing any of the goodness that we've put together for you there.
Right. And another thing that you should know with the language lesson series, but it's also helpful with the writing strands and the vocabulary, you're going to pick additional reading books to go along with. Now, I've designed throughout the language lesson series prompts to remind you to assign those reading books. It's important that you assign books that your students are going to love, that broaden their exposure and their reading level, but it's okay also to add some easier books just for fun. And there's no prescribed, they have to do this many books a week, a month, a year. You're going to decide that based on the needs and abilities of your student. And I did that purposely because you want your students to be excited about reading. And so like Carrie's son that has dyslexia, the books that are perfect for him are going to be entirely different than her other son who is really taken off in reading. And so to force both of those into the exact same books to be read at the exact same speed does not honor the way that God has created them uniquely. And so we want families to pick the books that are right for their student and assign them at a speed that is right for them. Now, I will be putting together curriculum packages utilizing the wonderful master books that that we've created and continue to focus on. I know that Master Books is coming out with a lot more books. They continue to release them. They're fantastic. But I'll also be adding in some other wonderful books as well, but you'll have to look me up on my website in order to find them. little bit of life happening there as we wrap this up. So thank you, Carrie, for joining me on this wonderful exploration of how to include the gospel in language arts and all of your communication and how important it is, and covering all the wonderful things that Masterbooks has to offer.
Yes, it was fun to be here to discuss this with you, and we hope that this has been a blessing, that we've been able to encourage you and give you that overview of how the language series works at Masterbooks.
Thank you.